All right. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome back to Spooky Time with Bradford and Bradford. I'm Bradford.
And this is Bradford.
And today, or night, whenever you're watching this, we're going to review a spooky movie called Apostle. So we watched, Bradford and I watched Apostle on Netflix. We watched it as a Netflix party, and we had a good time.
Did.
Oh, I forgot our titles. So, like I said, this is Spooky Time with Bradford and Bradford, and we are going to review Apostle for you. And we're going to start off talking about a little bit about the plot and the themes. So, yeah, good job, because I can't figure out how the mirror works. There it is. So the plot and the theme of this diabolical film. Well, I would say that the plot is about a young man named Thomas who used to be an apostle, and that's where we get the title, or if not an apostle, he was a priest and working in China, and he got burned, literally. And everybody thought he was dead. He shows up, he's alive, and lo and behold, his sister has been kidnapped by the strange religious cult. And so Thomas goes on a perilous journey to this little island cult community somewhere in England or Wales or something. Everyone's kind of British.
It called Finlandia?
They did say Finlandia, yeah, or something like, or he had a ticket to Finlandia. You thought that it looked very much like what film? Downsizing.
I don't remember.
Downsizing, remember?
Yeah,
so when they're paddling in, they're paddling in, and Bradford says, "Oh, it's Downsizing," and it looked like it was the same fjord from Downsizing. Anyway, so Thomas, he infiltrates this cult, and he's trying to rescue his sister. But this is more than just a cult. There's some creepy god lady witch on the island, and
she does.
And bad things happen. So that's me summing up the plot. I don't want to get. Oh, by the way, there will be spoilers. So we will be talking about whatever we want, but that's the plot so far. If you're intrigued by this and you haven't seen the movie and you want to watch it, then dare I say, stop this video temporarily and go and watch it, and then come back and watch us, and you can see if you agree or disagree with us. Anything else that you'd add to yes, on Netflix? Anything else you'd add to the plot, Bradford?
I mean, there's other things that happen, but
we've established what we need to know. So let's get to the critiquing of the plot and the theme. So what would you? So we got to give this a rate. We're going to give each thing. So plot and theme and the other categories that we have, we will give it a score between 1 and 10. 1 being bleh, and 10 being like yeah. So I gave an overview of it, but now why don't you give us your opinion of the plot and themes?
Sure. Okay. This is a weird thing to say, but it's like too sad. There's not enough. There's not enough things to root for, which is when I get scared in scary movies, is like something I really want to happen. Like I want this person to be safe, or I want them to get their goal, or I want them to like get out of there or be free, or like, so there were good characters that I didn't want bad things to happen to, but that was less of like a driving force for me to like root for them, and more of like just a tragic thing to happen.
Gotcha.
Rather than like, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the subplot. Then is the subplot that makes you so sad? Like where you feel like it's too sad?
Not too sad, but like too brutal. Because elements of sadness in horror movies are really good, but the way so
tell us the subplot.
Yeah, Jeremy and Fionn are like the young couple. Jeremy arrives on the same boat as like Thomas, the main character, and he's like, "Yo, we're in love. We're young. We're gonna run away." And then Fionn finds out she's pregnant because they've been having lots of sex, and then her
On a
dad is
boat.
like, what? On a
On a
boat.
boat. On
In a
a shipwrecked boat, but a boat that they're gonna build into their dream house.
Yeah, and there's all this weird like,
the cult people's like, let's build houses out of the boats that wash ashore.
that's got to be a lot of boats. But yeah, so, and then Fion's dad is like one of the main people that know all of the secrets of this land and how they're abusing this god, basically, or somebody they believe is God, and how anything that's born is tainted and won't survive and is like bad. So he's like, that baby's gonna kill you, but like in a very mean way. He like beats her up and stuff, and then he kills her because he wants her to be safe or something. And then Jeremy
I get the feeling
yeah.
that the dad killed her. I mean, the dad he's definitely the most villainous character that we see, and he seems like I thought that the dad had like an unnatural fixation for his daughter, because there's the scene where he's peeping on her when she at the outhouse. So it's like he wanted to just completely control his daughter, and then the moment that she has gotten out of his control beyond, repair or whatever, then he murders her.
Yeah, and to talk about a theme, which I thought was a kind of a cool theme, is it first shows up on the boat to the place. There's a lamb that's like struggling or something, and they throw it out, and it's like, it's God's way. But they're the one who threw it out of the boat. So that's kind of what happens. The dad kills his own daughter. Jeremy, her lover, walks in, and he's like, you killed her because you had sex with her, and then I had to kill her, so it's your fault. And then they like try to kill each other. The dad bursts out into the town. He's like, hey, this young guy just killed my daughter, and let's do stuff to him. And then they do stuff to him, which was, I think, the moment where I said, this movie sucks.
So that was a past the point of no return, right? For you, that was like, nope, this is not I'm not enjoying this movie. Right.
Yeah.
Which is funny, because with horror movies, at least when I watch them, I want to, I want to have a sense of spookiness. Like there's the horror, so bad things are going to happen. But movies can cross a line in a way where it's like, well, now I'm not enjoying this.
Yeah, and there were likable, I guess, characters left, like Jennifer and like kind of a love interest of Thomas, which were like pure people, basically. Yeah. But at the same time, they were characters that didn't have any like connection to the audience yet or ever. Where I didn't feel like I knew them. They were just like good people that survived. I was like, okay. Yeah. But they weren't people I could root for, and Jeremy and Fiona, I feel like, were the main people I could root for, besides Thomas a little bit.
Yeah, and I also think that the the subplot, I would say, it's an engaging subplot. It's a bit cliche in horror movies to have like, oh, here's the innocent couple, bad things are going to happen to them, right? We both knew it's like they are not going to survive, or both of them are. And so that there's kind of tragedy that's going to befall them. Having the execution scene of poor Jeremy, and he was a sympathetic character, so I was sad about what happened to him. So having that grotesque execution scene I felt that was a little bit forced, because it was almost like the director remembered, like, oh, I'm not just doing a weird sort of social drama escape film. This is supposed to be in the horror genre, so let's get out the screw and let's drill into his brain and then show a close-up of it while we place the little flower petal or whatever that is.
Which, to be fair, was good effects, but like, besides the point.
Yeah. So I had mixed feelings about the subplot. I did think that yes.
Going back to the topic of the theme of brutality and tragedy in horror movies, and how to do it, a similar kill that struck a similar chord with me was in The Mist, where we should review that too. But there's a similar like mob mentality, and it hit the same nerve for me where I got really sad after it, but I really liked it in The Mist because it was a crescendo of all these normal people doing a horrible thing, and then there was like this moment of sadness, and I think it was really well done and like a good amount of
I won't forget watching that with you because I think I paused the movie because you burst into tears. It like really hit you.
Yeah, and it was kind of the same.
Yeah, and The Mist has that same subplot of like there's these two young innocent people that are kind of caught in this thing. They're not the main characters, but they're kind of showing you how, you know, what these horrible situations do to these really sweet, nice people that should be, if they were in a romantic comedy, that we would be watching their happily ever after by the end of the movie, and they don't get that. So I had mixed feelings about that, but I did like Jeremy's fight with the dad because I was like, that was a good action sequence. I think that so here's my feelings about the main plot with our protagonist Thomas. I really like the idea of a brother character going in to rescue a sister character from a strange, bad cult-like situation or kidnap situation or supernatural island situation. So I really like that. The setup was a little bit odd, you know, because it was moving things fast, but I was like, is he high? Who's, you know, it was sort of like the writer and director decided, like, you know what, you know what I don't like? Exposition. I'm going to give you just a little tiny exposition, then we're going with it.
I'll explain it later.
Yeah, the theme of losing one's faith and then going through an experience to regain that faith. I like that theme, and we see it in other things, but I don't think it's done, you know, too much. It did remind me a little bit of, to a lesser extent, I guess, Signs with Mel Gibson. And but to an even more extent, the Scorsese film called Silence, that's about priests working in Japan and going through terrible things and still trying to retain their faith. And some of them lose it and some of them keep it. So I like that theme. But here's, I guess, my main problem with the plot was that I didn't quite get the rules of the supernatural element of the island and the lady who may or may not be a god. I really kept thinking of Moana. I thought that.
Do you want to talk about, because we have a lot for plot and themes, do you want to talk about that in like style and tone, maybe?
Sure. So let's give a score for plot and theme.
All right. I think I agree with you. I like the main plot. I think the choices that were made that made it too brutal in like other aspects too, not just the subplot. I'm gonna give it a 5.5.
5.5. I'm gonna give it a little bit better than that, but not much better. I'm just gonna give it a 6. Because, like I said, I like the setup, but there's a lot of the execution that I didn't care for. So it was interesting.
Pun intended.
That's right. Let's see. All right, next up, acting and characterization. Acting and characterization. I went first last time, so what? Or did I go first?
No, I think I ranted
I'll go
about
first.
Jeremy.
All right. So characterizations. So the villains, if you want to call them that, right? You got Malcolm is the cult leader.
What do you mean villains, if you want to call them that?
Well, because that's
he's a zero-fail.
Well, there are definitely antagonists. The dad who kills his daughter is definitely villainous, but Malcolm is weird because he's a villain, yes, but he's, as far as horror movies go, he feels more like an antagonist you'd see in like a mob movie, where, you know what I mean, where it's like, oh yeah, this character is doing bad things, but there are certain levels of twisted sense of honor and things like that. So we're supposed to root against him, but at the same time, he's not necessarily a character where you are horrified by him. He's the guy that shows, like, after Jeremy has, like, gotten his brains taken out of his head, he shows up and he's like, oh my gosh, what have you done? And he's the one that's having conversations with his other colleague, the Jeremy's father, you know, and they're talking about things like, did we do the wrong thing? You know, so there's moral discussions that are going on. So all of this makes for some interesting characterizations and some interesting acting moments. But ultimately, it's really kind of getting in the way of a couple things. So Malcolm doesn't make me feel like we're really in a cult, right? So I'm not getting the same sense of like the Midsommar vibe or, you know, religious cult vibe. It's I felt more of like,
but there never was like this is a cult movie though. It just had cult vibes a little bit.
Yeah, but he had a book, the Book of Malcolm. So he had this he made his own Bible, and he made these guys quote.
Yeah,
remember?
But listen.
Yeah, what?
Listen, you know why it's not a cult? Because they had an actual god that did magic.
But I don't know what that lady is. It's a lady that can grow plants. They found like an old X-Men character. And
that's true, but like he actually believed that she was a god.
Sure.
So he's not like a guy who's like, "Hey, follow me and have sex with me." He's like, "I found a god."
Yeah, I know, but I think they're making they're really making up their own culture as they go along. Because sometimes we wear masks at nights and dance around, and you got to go to bed at this time. And let's put a weird beehive on or something like that on one skinny guy that's all, you know, in this. I'm talking about the weird skinny guy that's in charge of.
I thought the lady did that.
The lady. I don't know. I mean, so
probably
there's
not.
So
he
anyway,
also felt like he was like supernatural.
Yeah, there was. I guess we're not talking so much about acting characterizations, but anyway,
I think
going with the acting, I think the acting was fine. The characterization of the main character, I didn't really get that much from him. It was almost like an action movie performance from our main character. We've got a stoic main character who's not saying too much, and I felt like a lot of the other things.
I was going to say like a playable character. I was going to say like a playable character in a video game.
We talked about how
he has a little bit of
the supporting characters often felt like NPC characters from a video game for me. So that's my, and I'll give a numeric value later, but that's so I'm feeling very middling about the acting and the characterization, kind of low on the characterization. I felt like it was muddy and messy and not, it felt like I was watching a filmed version of maybe the second draft of a script when we should have had 5 more drafts. What did you think of the acting of the characters?
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have the same feeling in that I really liked Malcolm's arc. I thought it was a good arc. I wanted that for every other character that we had, especially like Jennifer. Jennifer could have, because she was one of the final girls that like survived. Jennifer and the other character that was just like there to like be attracted to Thomas, I guess.
It's like, I'm wearing lipstick.
They could have had. They could have had more of an arc, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to give it a score. So for character and acting, I'm just going to give it a 5. Maybe I'll give it a 5.5. I'll give it a 5.5 since we're doing decimal points.
Honestly, I think I'm going to give it a 6.
6.
Oh.
All right. Next up, style and tone. So Bradford and Bradford, when we talk about style and tone, we're talking in part about the visual look and the mood that is created. And I've said this in our last video that a movie like The Shining, for me, that gets a 10 out of 10 because I love the look of it. I love the feel of it. I love the world that's created on screen. So I'll let you talk about style and tone first, Bradford.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you have to give a movie a 10 if there's a guy holding a wine glass and his little head's dripping into it and he's like, well, start the party or something like that. What does he say?
Lovely party. Yeah.
That's me. I think I'm going to lump the symbolism of the lady in with style and tone, if that's all right.
Sure.
I actually thought the aesthetics that they were working with had a lot of potential, and obviously in like plot and theme they didn't execute it as cool as I wanted them to.
But yeah, I really liked the aspect of, I feel like this is plot and theme, but I'm going to talk about it anyways. The symbolism of this lady, at first you're like, oh, is she like a god? Is she a witch? Is she, but then you find out that they just imprisoned this lady because they found a way to, I don't know how they stumble upon this. They're like, you know what? I think if we tie this lady down and make her drink blood, then she'll grow plants.
Yeah, but, it seemed like there were 3 convicts that showed up on this island first, the 3 main guys. But my theory is actually 4 of them showed up, and one was like maybe named Fred or something like that, and it's like, hey, Fred died. Let's feed her to the lady and see if it gives her powers, because it seems like some form of, it's almost like she's Audrey 2. Right? I got a very feed me vibe from Little Pet. I was going to say Little Pet Shop, from Little Shop of Horrors.
I feel like it's the inverse of that, though, because Seymour's like, you want blood? And she's like, yeah. But they're like, you want blood? And she's like, no.
She's like, no, not exactly. Right? Hey, so what do you think you were supposed to feed her? What was she supposed to get to be a healthy god or whatever she is?
I think the land is a little bit evil, like in the beginning. I think it took a conduit of this lady, and maybe, I don't think the land wanted blood from them. I think it wanted life. And giving it blood is giving it life in like a twisted way. So it worked, but not really. And that was like one of my favorite things actually about this movie, was like the theme of like forcing this thing to work, like using brute science basically on nature and having an outcome that you objectively wanted but isn't good for the land, which is a little bit relevant to our society today.
There were some relevant things, right?
Really cool. I think we could apply a lot of ecofeminism to that underlying thing about it.
And now you need your mic closer.
What?
You need your mic a little bit closer now because it got farther away, so you're quieter. Not that close. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, but it did have like written by a man vibes, but I did like that. I think you could apply like ecofeminism literary theory to that aspect of it. So that was probably my favorite aspect of Style on Town.
Okay, cool. I did get the feeling of like when our hero dies by the end, but he dies peacefully, knowing that his sister's going to be safe. And it's almost like he is now resting his body sort of willingly, and by dying peacefully and happily. And then the grass kind of takes him over and he's got a smile on his face. And so I got the impression like, oh, well, that's maybe what the island or the lady or the spirit of this place wants, sort of. Not even necessarily willing sacrifice, but sort of like you are willfully giving your body up, because that's, we all die, and so going back into the ground is kind of a natural thing, a natural way of looking at death.
Yeah, I thought he became like the lady.
Maybe, yeah, that he might become sort of the next spirit or one with her or something like that.
Yeah, just because of the like character design, he had like vines that the lady had, also like digging into her face, which made me like assume that she was a conduit of the land rather than music. Like the power stems from the land.
Okay, I liked some of the sets as far as some of the underground caves. I like the weird barn that's covered with vines and the lady that was kind of surrounded by the roots and things like that. So like I said, some of the style really reminded me of walking around in Red Dead Redemption, and to a lesser extent at the beginning, walking around in Skyrim. So I don't know why, but there was a video game vibe to the style and tone for me. Maybe that's unfair, but that's how I felt. So what score do you want to give style and tone?
I suspect that this is one of the higher scores I'm gonna give this film. I think I'm gonna give it an 8 because I really like the potential of. Obviously, I love nature and horror because The Ritual is my favorite,
Mm-hmm.
and I really like the tone of corrupt like religion and organized religion.
Okay, I will give it a 7. I like sort of the island community aspect and some of the creepy sort of settings of it. So I didn't think it was spectacular, but it was pretty good. I like some of the thematic things that you're talking about, so I should probably add a point or two to plot and themes. But I'm not gonna. I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna stick with what I'm in. So visual effects and sound effects. Sound effects could be, of course, not just the noises and the creepy sounds, but it also could include the music, the way the music is done, and visual effects could be anything like makeup or CGI or practical effects, things like that. The visual effects, there were some good moments. So we talked about the end where the grass is kind of growing them, so that had a good impressive last moment, and it was kind of a movie where it maybe didn't need too many effects. Some of the things that happened, as far as like kind of the magic things, like remember when the wall caught fire and I didn't know why it caught fire, and so like didn't she shoots the stone wall and it catches fire, and so there's some parts where it's like, was
I
that
don't remember that, but like the moth dying.
yeah, it's like I don't know if this is magic or not magic. So things like the as far as like the makeup, the old lady was fine. It was like when she's like kind of in her thicket and stuff like that. There's it was fine makeup and stuff like that. The young man with the weird hive head, I don't know. It seemed like he escaped from a Silent Hill video game or something like that. So it's like I don't know what it's like. It's like he wandered off the set of a different horror movie. It's like I'm just here with my hive head.
I'm the main character.
Yeah,
I was the main character on that.
And it's not so much necessarily makeup, but some of the gore aspects. So like when it gets like we're gonna torture Jeremy, or we're gonna drill it into his head, and then show some of it, and we're going to the part that was maybe the most cheesiest part for me, I think, involved the kid with the hive head, Thomas, and he's being stretched out, and he's got like hooks in him, and then they've got the cranking shaft, and Thomas loses a whole bunch of his fingers, and then just like kind of puts a Band-Aid on. Is like, I'll be fine. I wrapped my shirt around it. I'm fine.
I felt like I stopped watching a movie and then switched to playing Mortal Kombat when I was watching that part.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I will give the visual effects. I'll give it 7. I'm getting a very average kind of feeling, or C+ kind of feeling from this movie. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, sadly, my favorite special effects was my least favorite part of the movie was like Jeremy's head, and I was like, oh, that's actually a good prop. But the rest of it was pretty underwhelming to me. So I'm gonna give it a 6.
6.
6.
Oh, 6.6.
Yeah. I don't know.
Good. I know.
6.
We should probably get rid of decimal points and like, all right, here's the favorite parts. Spookiness. Ooh, is this movie? What was the spookiest part of this movie for you, Bradford?
Well, the part that stuck with me was Jeremy's execution. But I didn't I didn't like the choices that was made by the movie, but technically that was the spookiest part for me. Oh, and the lady crawling in the sewer water was pretty good.
That was the part where I gasped. So when Thomas is hiding out from Malcolm and the other people looking for him, he goes down this like terrible like sewer cave or tunnel or something like that. And so when he sees the lady and she's kind of in the mud and she's crawling. By the way, this got in the way of the spookiness for me. The lady is sometimes trapped in the roots, but then sometimes she's just wherever she wants to be. And so I need rules. If you want to get me scared, then I need to know more about what the rules are, for these kind of supernatural things.
Yeah, I mean, I think rules are really important in horror, just to like it makes it easier to put yourself into the movie when there's rules to like horror movies. So yeah.
Yeah, so like A Quiet Place, you learn the rules, like they can hear very well. And if halfway through the movie it's like, and they can also smell you, you'll be like, well, what what else are you not telling me?
They can teleport.
Are you sweating? Because they're going to smell you. You're going to smell your body odor. They're going to get you. All right, so yeah, so the spooky part, seeing the lady, that was spooky. There's some gore stuff that made me cringe. What score do you want to give it for? What's your score that you want to give the spookiness level?
My ideal type of spookiness is a lot of tension and build-up, which wasn't consistent in this movie. So I would give it another 6, I think.
6, okay. I'm gonna if I think of a movie where it's like, for me, if it's spooky, I need to be scared while I'm watching it, and if it's really spooky, I'm scared afterwards. Like I think about it, and after I watched this movie, I slept like a baby. I had no problem going to sleep. I was interested, I thought about the cult and stuff like that, and the rules, I thought about it, some of the plot points, but I didn't have any trouble going to sleep. So I think with the kind of the one jump scare, I would, I'm just going to give it a 5. So, and not every horror movie, I know we call them horror movies, but sometimes the emphasis isn't necessarily about the scares. So I think that this is really a rescue movie. So it's really about the tension. Is Thomas going to rescue his sister? And what is he going to discover about himself and about this island? And it'll be scary. That's why I felt like, in a lot of ways, if you took away the gore, you could have had, a PG-13 movie that was more about the adventure of getting his sister out of this strange mystical place. Yeah. And also, I can't emphasize enough that I kept thinking of Moana and the island, the island lady character. Okay, so that means we've got our scores. So let's tally up these scores. You ready?
Yeah. Do you know how to do it?
All right, here we go. Okay, so I've done the math. I've done the math on my math-making thing, and the overall score is 6.2. 6.2. So that would be a D. If it was in a classroom, it would have gotten a D. But I would have let the filmmaker, do another draft and turn in another movie. Maybe a director's cut would get it up to a C or a C+.
I don't think everything you rate is in a classroom.
Everything. Yeah. So, but I do want to. By the way, if somebody's out there who's watching this and you worked on this movie, I have a problem with people being overly critical about things, but I do want people to know that even if we give a score, a movie a low score, that doesn't mean we didn't have a good time. There's something to be said about horror movies that aren't that great, or they can still be great watching experiences. And I really loved watching a movie with you on the Netflix party. It was great. It was great, and so there was a lot to talk about this film and a lot to think about, even if it it didn't score that high with us, but it's interesting. I'm glad. I guess what I like about it is that I feel like between what was the other movie we watched? Not The Thing. The Ritual. Okay, that's right. Between The Ritual and Midsommar, which you haven't seen yet, which we got to watch soon, and Apostle, it's like there's a weird subculture of cult horror movies, and it's like I didn't know this existed. So we should be on the lookout for more religious cult horror movies, because it's an interesting subgenre. Cool. All right. Anything else you want to talk about? Say about
I might add to, I give this movie a low score because I'm very particular on what I want in a horror movie. I know what I want. So yeah, it's probably very much more valuable to people out there.
Well, we've talked a lot. We're going to have a lot to edit. It's going to be cool. Let's say goodbye to everybody. All right, so I'm Bradford.
And I'm Bradford.
And this is Spooky Time with Bradford and Bradford. So we'll see you guys later. Oh, what movie should we watch next? I don't know.
Midsommar.
Maybe we need to watch Midsommar and do like a cult trilogy.
Could leave some suggestions in the comments.
Oh, yes. Yeah, please leave us your suggestions as to what movie we should watch next. That would be awesome. Okay. I love you, Bradford.
Love you, Bradford.
Bye.